And knowing those people will never have any money saved for retirement, and they'll become beg and scream and cry that they never had any opportunity, even though they did and they spent all their money. Let's talk about retirement.
U.S. Social Security is facing insolvency by 2033.
If that trust fund runs short, benefits would have to be cut by around 20%.
Okay. Here's a short version. Back in the Bill Clinton administration, there was a big conversation being had in our federal government about, hey, should Social Security, the fund that was sitting there, the money coming in, should it be invested in something like the overall market so that I can grow? They considered that too risky. So instead, Social Security money does not grow. Oh shit, now it's not actually fucking working. And it doesn't have any money. It's not until around 2033. It's like every dollar that goes in is just going to be taken out. That is the definition of a Ponzi scheme. Ponzi schemes usually in the private world, so federal, technically probably not a Ponzi scheme. But either way, that is usually how a Ponzi scheme works in the way of a private enterprise. But whatever. But what we should have done is look after like Norway with their oil fund, where they're investing like crazy. Saudis investing like crazy all across the world, buying sports teams, buying companies. Fucking the Toronto Teacher Pension Fund investing like crazy, buying stocks, diversified all crazy. Instead, our big pension fund, our Social Security system, sits there, loses money, and it's not great. So, yay. Social Security doesn't have money because the fund was robbed. It wasn't just because it was robbed. No, it doesn't grow. This is like one of the only major pension funds in the entire world that is not fucking invested. What are you talking about? It loses to inflation. We have a declining birthing population. It's not as simple as, it was just stolen. It's not as easy as that. That's not how this has worked. We made a lot of decisions along the way. Like you were fed some kind of narrative that you're able to go fact check right now.
At the same time, the U.S. retirement system received a C+ rating from the Mercer CFA Institute Global Pension Index in 2024.
The Netherlands actually took the top seed again in 2024. Australia was number 6 in our survey, but it's a C+.
Let's see which countries actually invest their retirement funds versus the ones that don't. Actually, interesting, the Saudi Arabia one. I guess is it the Saudi government themselves, not the retirement fund that is overall investing across the world?
2024, Australia was number 6 in our survey, but it's a C+, but that puts us middle of the pack. It means that the system is solid, designed well, but there is a significant risk. And if we don't clear that risk up, the system could be in some jeopardy.
Americans save dramatically more than...
Like people my age will probably have Social Security, but it's not going to look like today. And the age is going to be pretty high, unfortunately.
In other countries.
But
the 401k system won't work. If Gen Z has some money in a retirement account, I will guarantee you that most of that money will be leaked out before retirement to buy a healthcare policy, to deal with an emergency room, to maybe buy a house, which is...
So here's my overall notes on Social Security. So let's just explain it from the bottom. It's a pay-as-you-go system. Your workforce right now, you're paying into it like 12.4%. Those taxes fund today's retirees, not your future retirement. It is not your money. It's going out the door, typically. And when tax revenues exceed the payment, the surplus goes into the Social Security Trust Fund, which is invested in U.S. Treasury securities, because we decided that is more secure and it is better and less risky than the market when we had the choice to actually invest it in the overall market in the 90s. But of course, when payments exceed revenues, the program has to draw down from the trust fund to cover the gap. Also, right now, baby boomers, when were they born? Like 40s? But a lot of them are retiring, and that's obviously taking a lot from Social Security as well. We also have a longer life expectancy now. And, as people are living in their 80s, 90s, whatnot, and that is collecting benefits for decades. And there's now, because of our declining, birth rate, there are fewer workers per retirees. For example, this is South Korea, an extreme example where the population pyramid is completely collapsing. Within a few decades, it's going to be one worker per one retiree. How is that mathematically going to be possible? We'll find out. It'll be a good experiment. But let me get some data. Okay. All right, in 1960, we had 5.1 workers per retiree, per beneficiary of Social Security. Today it's 2.7 workers, so it's already half of that. It's going to be 2.2 workers by 2035. So right now, revenue growth is slower than benefit growth. Payroll taxes are capped. Let's see, what are they capped at? Looks like last year, $168,000. And that limits revenue growth. But again, it could the fund itself that is sitting there that doesn't have to pay out as much when revenues are good coming in should have been growing with the overall market. And of course, for what it's worth, though, the benefits do rise with inflation and wage indexing, which usually grows more than the inflows with the cap. And then, so the Old Age Survivors Insurance Trust Fund, which is the main retirement fund, by the way, is projected to be depleted by 2033 or 2034, and that's what this video is going over. At that point, Social Security would only rely on payroll taxes, which cover about 70 to 80% of scheduled payments today. And Social Security doesn't necessarily go bankrupt. Like, payments would still be paid. It would just be like reduced level unless some brand new program, came in. And of course, the solutions that raise payroll taxes. People don't really like raising taxes. Raise retirement age. People don't really like doing that. Reducing benefits for high earners. People don't really like doing that. And change the cost of living adjustments. People don't really like doing that. So in general, the best thing we could have done when more money was coming in than money was going out in the 90s is allow it to be in something that aren't fucking U.S. Treasuries. At least U.S. Treasuries are okay today, but we have an outflow problem versus inflow due to the boomers. So now here's the fact checking, by the way, for the person in chat who likely got from the political narrative because this was easier than actually addressing our problems that Social Security was raided or it was stolen. So nothing was technically ever stolen, but money has been borrowed and then spent. So the way the fund works is, again, when more payroll taxes comes in that gets paid out, it goes into the trust fund. But when more money goes out than comes in, it gets taken from the trust fund. The government spends the borrowed money on the trust fund on general budget like defense, highways, or healthcare. But that is borrowed money, the treasury bondholders, not actually the fund itself taking the money. And in return for that borrowing, that's where the trust fund earns interest. So the rating narrative is not a factual true thing. And it literally, now with all the resources we have, you can Google this. You can chat GPT, you can Grok, you can do whatever the fuck you like. You can Google and check the sources. Always check the sources that it's pulling from. Don't just listen to AI, absolutely. But these are IOUs that are redeemed, which is when benefits exceed the payroll tax revenue. And oftentimes that's why it feels like through the raising of taxes or borrowing more or cutting other spending, it feels like stealing from the fund. But the fund has never been actually stolen from. So when that guy came in here and just was like, yo, it's not because we didn't choose to invest the money properly, it's because it's been stolen. It literally hasn't been. It's been borrowed upon through the treasury. It's actually gaining interest on the fund itself. Fact correction, fuck off. I hate when people just heard something from the news once, read a headline, and then that's it. That's it. That's their entire worldview forever. Instead of actually trying to look into the facts of something. Fucking kills me. My goodness, I swear it was surrounded by morons. Kill me now.
It's good, but that money won't be there for retirement or all the other kind of life contingencies that happen, over that 40 years that you're working.
Countries around the world are raising their retirement ages as well as requiring mandatory contributions into personal retirement savings. Experts suggest this can
something I would be okay with that I think a lot of people in the higher earn, because I'm higher earning and I'm very financially, even when I was like lower earning, I was still contributing a lot to retirement. I would be okay if, even though I pay in, that I don't get Social Security because I've done very well. Is that fair? No, because it's supposed to be a you receive because you paid in system. I'd be okay with that. Maybe it's something you should be able to elect to do. I would elect allow my Social Security fund to go to someone else, and I'd be chilling with that. I guess a blanket size solution is saying, no, you don't get anything because your higher income earning would be bad because, it is a promise to pay and get out. So, it's hard.
Help address modern problems like people living longer and fewer workers paying into the system. Here's how the U.S. retirement system compares to the rest of the world and what experts think it can do to improve. Let's consider some of the features that are often present in the A-grade systems. They are
Okay, I have a proposal. Not supported by facts. We're going to go like TikTok on this. This is going to be TikTok brain. Not supported by facts. is completely proposal, and I can't back this up anyway whatsoever. More, it's to actually see like, oh, what do people think of this? Would this actually work? I don't fucking know. I'm not even saying let's implement this. I'm like, oh, what if this is a hypothesis? What if instead of Social Security, which gets paid in and usually doesn't collect as much as needs to go out anymore, and the fund isn't actually growing any money that was there, and the fund's going to be depleted by the 2033. Okay, blah, 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 blah. What if instead there's a mandatory retirement contribution amount that you must make instead of Social Security tax? You must contribute, say, 10%. 15%, whatever it is now, 13.5% right now. You have to do that, and you can pick these variety of things. It can go from an index fund as risky as the S&P 500 to something as low as like a U.S. federal bond, okay? And you can choose from all these things, and you get to choose what's invested in. And then at the end, there is a mandatory at 59.5 10% tax on the growth, and that 10% tax on the growth immediately goes to those who were lower income earners, so didn't have a chance to save as much in their mandatory 12.5%. And so does Social Security. How about that? Nothing factual to back that up. Haven't done the math. But I'm like, well, what do you think of that? Would that be complete shit? Would that fuck up? I'm not proposing it. I'm asking a question. Not proposing, asking a question. Not seeing a lot of thoughts, I'll be honest. I'm not seeing a lot of thoughts on that opinion. How's life in NYC? I'm not there. I'm in Austin. State mandatory 401k IRAs. It's high risk, low risk selection is what the military does for retirement. Yeah, but I'm saying in replacement of the mandatory Social Security contribution. No, I'm saying instead of it's not about paying for poor people. I'm saying instead of Social Security. So like you would get more money in the end anyway, because at least it would be growing at like 8 to 10% instead of not growing at all and actually getting negative with inflation. It's not about giving the money away. It's like you will still have more money, right? But hopefully that 10% on the growth, because the growth has been so much more substantial than what we have now, is able to supplement Social Security for low income earners that we would have today, but you still have more money in the end. Is that stupid? Maybe it's stupid. I'm not proposing it. It just popped into my head. I don't know. Okay, let's keep going. At least we would end up with more money, most people, right? That would be the nice thing, right?
Net replacement rate, including both public and private pensions, of at least 65% for a median income earner with a full career. Private pension coverage of at least 80% of the working age population. Pension contributions that are being invested for the future of at least 12% of wages.
Is this being required? What is this? Is this the Netherlands? Is this like required from the workplaces by the government? Because this is from the government, right? Is this public and private pension? So is this required?
And a well-governed and well-regulated private pension system.
I think is important to highlight the Netherlands, that's in the top all the time. They have just passed rules in the last couple of years. They're moving from a defined benefit arrangement to a defined contribution.
A defined contribution plan, such as a 401k in the United States, works a little bit like a bucket. Workers decide how much to put in, how to invest it, and in some cases, employers...
That's actually what I just advocated for. I didn't even fucking know that. That is what I just advocated for. You get to choose what to invest in. Instead, every dollar we put into Social Security, 90% of the dollars we put into Social Security is immediately withdrawn, so it doesn't even get to grow. And then you receive less in the end than you even put in for the majority of people. This is what I just advocated for.
Add to the bucket as well. In the United States, participation in these plans is voluntary, and workers typically must choose to opt in. Usually,
we have Social Security instead, though. This is in replacement of like our version of Social Security, right?
Can access all of the money.
Yeah, pre-watched. I guess I don't have the time for that shit.
Upon
the only time I get to watch YouTube videos is during streams.
Retirement. A defined benefit plan, however, resembles a faucet. Workers pay into programs such as Social Security or employer-sponsored pensions and receive a steady monthly payment upon retirement, typically for life. The benefit plan provider sets the contribution amount and how the money is invested.
For what it's worth, though, in Netherlands, their public pension starts at 67. That's pretty old.
In the Netherlands, there's a mandatory contribution made. You can't opt out of it, either as an employer or an employee. So getting money in.
This is what I advocated for. Well, I'm not advocating for it because I don't know, but this was like what popped into my head as a solution that actually has proper returns on investment.
In the US is a real challenge because it is a voluntary system. But if we're going to stay voluntary, then getting it easier to launch a plan and join a plan is the critical thing for us to focus on.
The Netherlands is not alone in requiring people to save.
I've worked in a number of countries, including Chile.
Oh, fuck. I've seen her in another video before. She says nothing.
And Australia.
Both of those have national mandatory defined contribution plans. Both of the systems, I think, have worked fairly well in being able to help people get in early, invest, and save toward retirement.
The thing is, the political capital required is just something that no politician's ever going to take to redo Social Security. Sorry, and this is why you should always be skeptical of we should always be skeptical of any kind of entitlement system being implemented, because an entitlement system can sound good and it might be great, but it's impossible to get rid of. It's impossible to get rid of. So every time we implement something, it will be impossible. What entitlement have we ever implemented that we've gotten rid of? None that I can think of. It's impossible because they become politically popular very quick, and then you can't get rid of them. Republicans couldn't even get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You couldn't even get rid of that when they had control, in Trump's first term. Like, you cannot get rid of an entitlement that is implemented. Hi, listen here, Financial Audit. I've curated the exact resources and tools I personally use or would use if I was in certain situations. So take advantage of these offers in the resources section in the description below. The first one, I've moved my investments to Webull. Do the same and transfer to my investing app of choice, and you get cash bonuses of $200 all the way up to $30,000, depending on initial funding amount, and up to 8.1% APY on your money, and up to 3.5 matches for your IRA. And then number 2, a great new checking account that I've switched over from SoFi, and it's called Chime. Get that $550 bonus when you sign up with direct deposit and get almost 4% on your money just sitting there. And then 3, automate your investing with Acorns. Usually sign-up incentives are only $5, but you get $20 with my link. Number 4, you can increase your income and boost your resume with a course career certification. 5, if T-Mobile is good in your area, switch to Helium and get a literal $0 a month phone plan for the same exact service. But most importantly, go get your free Hammer financial score and see where you stand in the world of finances. Take the assessment at calebhammer.com. You will not regret any of these. Change your life today.
The thing that I like about Australia is that everyone's covered. It's hard to beat the everyone's covered provisions. They shifted from largely a defined benefit system to a defined contribution years ago. And so when they did that, the employers were happy to go to a defined contribution. And so the fact that they had mandatory contributions, and the way they did it actually was slow. They started out at a low mandatory employer contribution.
I guess that would be the way to do it.
And then they've risen over time.
Not everyone agrees with the Mercer CFA assessment.
Mercer is a
State-free college was taken away. I think it's just that the price of college went up, right? More than anything on that. But yeah, I see that. I see that point. What was it, a law enacted guaranteed entitlement though? I don't think it was.
pension consultant firm. They care about these little details of
Because it wasn't a law signed into law that like college is free, right?
How retirement plans work. For instance, they penalize the U.S. because you're not required to buy an annuity with your retirement savings. They penalize the U.S. because we allow pre-retirement withdrawals and loans. All of that is fine. What they don't account for is Americans save dramatically more for retirement than do people in the typical developed country.
We're forced to because the Social Security fucking blows. Well, let's just be honest.
Retirement plan assets in the U.S. are too.
Farm subsidies back in the 20s were supposed to be temporary and sunset after the Great Depression, but those are still here. Yeah, it's impossible. We just can't get rid of anything. Once something is implemented, especially on a federal level, it is impossible to get rid of because the political capital required to do so is immense, and no one's willing to do that.
2.5 times the median of OECD countries, which means even if we have these picayune faults with our program, we're saving much, much more for retirement.
Other experts argue just looking at averages can be misleading.
The median level of retirement savings for baby boomers is 0, meaning most people have nothing. And if you just take the average, you take in the people who have a couple of $1 million. So we have the boomers moving into retirement, 5% have the amount of money they need.
For the U.S. system,
That's crazy. 5% have the money they need. But here's the thing. I've had this conversation. It's so hard. So what happens when they play this video that's right on screen right now? Your heart hurts. Your empathy goes full iDubbbz. Like, you're sad. You're like, oh, fuck. We need to support this person. We need to support this person. Absolutely 100%. They've been working all their life and now they can't have a dignified retirement. We need to work for them. I'm not arguing against that. But here's also the thing on the other side of it that comes across in the asshole way. Every single person we've had on financial audit that is choosing to go to McDonald's every day, that is choosing to Starbucks every fucking day, that is choosing to go on a vacation instead of contributing even 5% to retirement. They're willing to spend 40% going and having fun right now, then just 5% on retirement are going to look like this in 50 years. And then all of a sudden, are we going to be sad and be like, oh shit, you worked your entire life. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You should have a dignified retirement. Yes, they should. And they shouldn't have been going to Paris every 6 months, like someone I filmed with today, who has nothing in retirement. Nothing in retirement she has at 42. But she went to the fucking Netherlands last year. She's going to Antarctica this year. Fuck her. Fuck her. She's choosing that instead of actually putting in any kind of effort now. And then she's going to look sad at 70. And we're all going to be like, oh, fuck, we should pay more into the system to give her a dignified retirement. Why the fuck is that fair? You know, these people right here, I didn't live in their time. We didn't live in their time. Maybe they didn't have the opportunity. You know, pensions were promised. Pensions got rid of. 401ks are more new. Maybe they deserve more of a system that is beneficial to them because maybe they got fucked over, okay? But people that we are growing up with right now, people that we are living with that are choosing to have instant gratification right now at 40% and not even willing to say 5% for their future, I don't want to have this conversation in 40 years when they are gray and they are sad, because they chose to live their life, and then they have to put those who are 30 years younger than them actually working on the fucking back burner, having to put more of their money aside to support them because they never sacrificed their entire life. I don't want to fucking hear it. But that's just the people we're filming with today. Again, these people, many of them were promised pensions. Pensions phase away. 401ks are new. Maybe they didn't have the time in the market that they, would have had. So, it's maybe different for this generation. But I don't want to fucking hear it in 35 years. I don't want to fucking hear it.
The thing that could change that grade significantly, the most important is actually coverage. Our 401k plans are voluntary.
A 401k is a workplace
Yeah, I don't know what she's going to see in Antarctica. She's a ginger, so maybe she's avoiding the sun. I don't know.
Retirement savings plan in the U.S. that allows employees to set aside part of their paycheck into accounts that are invested in assets such as stocks and bonds. In most cases, the money goes in before income taxes are applied, so you can defer paying taxes until you withdraw the money and
which sucks. Take the Roth option, pay the taxes now, and then take that lovely growth over 30, 20, 10 years, tax-free. Roth all day, baby. That's why it's income capped, even though there's a backdoor option.
retirement.
Americans have the tendency to sort of create ideals of how other countries' programs work.
That's what they're going to do. You see this? They're just going to bring a stack of fucking old person, wrinkly skin, gray hair at a computer and a nice house, if we're being completely honest. But ignore that with a stack of bills, and it's like, oh, cry, cry, cry. I don't want to hear that shit in 35 years when this lady I filmed with today has no retirement at 42 and is going on like 3 international trips in the last 5 months or 12 months. I don't want to fucking hear it.
To sort of create ideals.
What kind of Roth? You can't just say Roth? Yes, I can. A Roth account. Any kind. IRA. Fucking 401k. Whatever you can Roth it up, baby.
Countries' programs work. But the reality is that the typical U.S. retiree has a higher income than the typical retiree in the Netherlands or Norway or Denmark or Sweden. So something's working right here. We've got the money in retirement.
Well, we make substantially more, right? Than the UK for sure. We make double what they make in the UK. So we're able to contribute more. Even after all the benefits that are coming. Again, this is data that can be pulled. You can pull this right now. Compared directly to the UK, even Germany actually, but especially the UK compared to the United States, because we make double the income, even with our private healthcare system where they have, the National Health Service, even with their higher taxes, but having those things covered, after we pay for our normal median, at the median income level compared to the median income level there, our median healthcare costs, and retirement costs and all the extra costs that are usually covered over there, we have more money in our pockets at the end of the month. So it's not surprising that we likely invest more in the market. It's a little closer in Germany, I'll be honest, but in the UK, it is substantial. That's just because the UK has become a failed state, unfortunately. Very sad to see.
As of March 2023, 70% of U.S. workers had access to a retirement plan, but only 53% participated.
Well, that's stupid. Always take the match at a minimum. It's not even a question. Take the match. It's free money.
So that immediately is an issue. They still get Social Security, so it's not like they don't have any retirement. They might also have private savings.
No. Double income on the average American? No, we don't do average. We do median. Do median. Median. Learn the difference between averages and median.
All of that will be factored into the grade.
Even if Americans do save, many pull money out of their accounts early. This is called 401k leakage.
The assumptions that people will save 10 to 20% of their income every paycheck from the beginning of their work history is like age 26
They should.
is just not credible given
Sure, the assumption, but we need to do better at educating people.
human behavior.
Parents need to do better at educating people. We need to teach it in public schools. That's what we're doing. You know, it's like millions of people watch our show, so hopefully that gets people to contribute more to the retirement. The more we can advocate for it, the better. Opinion on gold as retirement? I mean, gold's definitely done well these past few years. I think it's gold's appropriate in a well-diversified portfolio. Would I say like 100%? Would I say 50%? Would I say 25%? No, maybe not, but I could definitely see it as a healthy part of a healthy portfolio, diversified as an inflation hedge.
And the way the labor market works.
The lost savings due to 401k cash outs was estimated to be between $60 and $105 billion in 2019.
Crazy. People think because they leave a job, they have to pull from their 401k, by the way. I met one of those the other day. That blew my mind. Just because they left, they didn't even know rolling over was an option. Or they could just leave it there. Thanks, Paul, for the membership on YouTube.
As you change jobs in the United States, you can just take the money out. Now you pay penalties, and I don't recommend taking the money out, but people do. And so particularly when they're small, because you've only worked a few years in a bunch of places.
6th grade math is hard. For what it's worth, what's crazy is I love economics. I fucking love that shit. I love personal finance. But put me down and make me take a math test, I can't do shit. I fucking equations, I can't do shit. I choke and my brain freaks out. I can't do tests. I've never been good at tests. But I obsess over data. And real world outcomes. And that is like my obsession.
Places, it's so tempting to take it out.
It's like I suck at English too. I really do. I'm such a shit speller and reader. Like I'm really not good.
But compound interest, that builds over time. When you take it out for your first 3 or 4 jobs, you really decrease the benefit that you get at the end.
Another way people may struggle is by not pacing their spending once they enter retirement. One way around this.
Yes, people are not willing to downsize their lifestyle ever, especially in America. We are so entitled to lifestyle. We think if we can't go out to eat 4 times a week, we're a victim. You know, it's kind of crazy.
Is using income stream payments, or annuitization as it's called in the United States.
When you have a defined contribution plan, you can take the money all in one lump sum. You can roll it over into an IRA. You can actually take it out and pay taxes on it. People do that. But what that means is you're not getting a consistent stream of payments. And so the ability to manage that bucket of assets now becomes each individual's thing to manage. It's complicated. So those are the things that drag us down.
That's why we enjoy things like just an index retirement fund. So you don't really have to manage it. It becomes more conservative the older you get. We like the 4% rule, 4% withdrawing 4% so that your assets at least stay level. But that means you have to save up. You got to get a lot of money. Because remember, 4% of $1 million, and $1 million is a shit ton of money. Shit, like fucking ridiculous. It's a crazy amount of money. I know it's been downsized over the decades, but $1 million is still a shit ton of money. But 4% of $1 million is $40,000 a year, and that's difficult. That is difficult. So just get like an $80,000 a year lifestyle. You gotta save up $2 million. $2 million just for $80,000. $80,000 is a good life in today's money. But that means in order to live $80,000 today, by the time you retire, if you're around 30 or 25, you got to save $4 million by the time you're 65 to live that life, today's lifestyle then with inflation. Isn't that fucking crazy? It's kind of crazy. That's why the 4% rule, even though it's good, it's like, oh, fuck, it's kind of doom and gloom. It's like, oh, I got to be doing this forever.
To a C+,
A Nobel Prize winner called that problem, having a lump sum and making it last the rest of your life, the nastiest problem in finance because of so many other variables. What's going to happen in the market, what's going to happen with tariffs, and then just when you're going to get sick and when you're going to die. All those calculations are necessary to make the right decision, and nobody has that information.
Well, that's why a lot of people, once they get to their kind of retirement goal that can just grow, their next step is they save up a large lump sum of money. That's like almost like a 3-year emergency fund, maybe even 4 to 5. It's pretty crazy. And then they resume investing after they get that. But what they do is so that if retirement hits and the market's like, it's like 2008 or like 2022, 2020. What was it, 2023, where the market was down, 20%, something like that. It's like you don't want to withdraw during that time. So you use that massive emergency fund to live life while the market has time to hit the bottom and then start to grow again. And then you can, start living off the retirement and rebuild that emergency fund. Does Austin FC make playoffs this year? Well, we're right down the middle of the road. We'll see.
The U.S. is not the only country that struggles with this.
In Australia, it's a good system in that it is a mandatory system. They're increasing the amount people have to pay in. The one thing they didn't get quite right was that they didn't require retirees to take part of their money and buy a lifetime income stream. And so as a result,
buy a lifetime income stream. What does she mean specifically by that?
Australia, people can still take all or most of their lump sum, go on an overseas experience, travel around the world, and then come back with their handout saying, "Oh, I'm poor. I wish to get my poor person's pension."
Can't do
and
that.
they
you shouldn't be able to do that. Like, what the fuck? What are we doing?
are paid relatively well from that welfare pension. So there's so many ins and outs that pension plans have to solve, and so many design attributes that you really have to look at each of the.
How about budgeting your bills to 2% of your retirement account and then just take a loan to the amount? Well, that's what a lot of wealthy people do because capital gains fucking suck. Like, imagine paying taxes on the money you paid taxes on, and then you invested, and then you have to pay taxes on that money that you invested after you paid taxes on. It's like, oh, fuck. Even though I guess if a stock goes from 0 that you owned and you didn't put much money into it to like 1,000. Okay, whatever. Either way, a lot of people borrow against their assets, right? When rates are, in favorable worlds, in order to avoid, because even if you pay 8% rate, it's better than capital gains.
Stages in life, getting people in, getting them to invest, and then what happens when they retire. And no country has a perfect system.
Australia knows that too many people are taking too large of lump sums, and they're worried about the long livers. Guess who they are? They are the women who are left behind in these couples that the couple
I can't wait to leave my girlfriend behind. It's going to be great.
makes the decision at retirement, and it's the female, most likely, who has to live through the consequences
Female? Is she an incel? She said female.
of it. So what we've learned is that couples tend to spend kind of inappropriately or more money than they should if they were funding as long a life as a female. So you have the risk of poverty and downward mobility skyrocket for women who become widows or become a divorce. And so actually protecting people against taking a lump sum has the effect of protecting women more than men just because of their longevity.
Saving for retirement is difficult, regardless of where you live. By 2050, the world could be facing a $400 trillion shortfall in the money people need to retire.
It's fucking crazy. And all these systems have been implemented in the last 100 years. 100 years. A few generations. That's crazy. And it's going to be done. All the things that sound good. Fuck.
And the U.S. is a major part of the problem.
I'm frequently asked as a pension expert, which country has the best retirement system? And my answer is a little bit equivocal. It's that every country's retirement system is a product of the path that it grew on.
Wow, what a great answer that really answers the question.
Some of these proposals, such as a mandatory defined contribution system, may not go over well in the United States.
Now, of course, Social Security is mandatory in the United States. So, it's not like we don't have any mandatory benefits, but the idea that this top up, this second tier would be mandatory, I find it hard to believe the US would head in that direction. You can't have the same system every place in the world.
You can't. If we had a mandatory system, we should get rid of Social Security and allow us to invest our money properly and then tax that invested money eventually at 59.5 in order to pay for those who weren't able to because they were lower income throughout.
What you can is have the best system that you
Maybe. I don't know. Again, that's what popped into my head earlier. Who knows? All I know is Social Security is a horrible return on everyone's money.
have within
Except for the literal lowest earners in our country.
the culture that you have. There are some good things in there that drag us up. We've got a significant amount of assets in defined contribution plans. We've had them for a very long time. We still have some people that are covered by defined benefit plans. And in the US, we have a progressive benefit formula in the Social Security program, which means you get more money to your lower waged employees. That also helps with the adequacy. So there are pluses and minuses, and there are things we could do to make it a little bit tighter. And honestly, that is the point of the pension index, is to give everyone an opportunity to understand what's working and then understand what's not and see what they can change.
There's a variety of things that you can critique the U.S. retirement system for, but instead of looking at just features, you should look at results. And the results are we save more than...
I said it's 100 degrees out right now. It is 100 fucking... What is this place? What is this? It's September. This is disgusting.
most other countries, and we have among the very, very highest retirement incomes in the world. To me, that speaks to the success of how our program works.
Well, it wasn't horribly optimistic, was it? But, I mean, honestly, if we're being realistic, it's not an optimistic thing, so it kind of sucks. Is what it is, though. Is what it is. We'll do this. Hey, Caleb Hammer stream fans, make sure you get your financial score for free. Take the assessment at calebhammer.com or dollarwise.com. It's free. See where you stand in the world of finances.